Hello, and welcome to DigiFabricators, the show where we learn how makers and artists use their computer driven tools for fun art and profit. I'm your host, Jeff Stein, aka A Weird Guy, and with me is my talented but sleepy co host, Al Schultz of New York Woodworks. How you doing tonight, Al?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
Oh, not too bad. A little cold here, otherwise, normal for a Minnesota winter, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
Sucky but normal.
yeah. We just had a day and a half of plowing here, so that's why I'm
Yeah,
sleepy.
it's too cold for snow here. It usually doesn't pull that shit unless it gets up over 20.
Yeah,
Anyway, let's fire off the disclaimer so we can get going here.
yeah.
Even though we pretend to be experts on the internet, I would like to point out that neither of us have any actual training and are guys just winging it in our shops and learning as we go. All advice provided is based on our personal experience and possibly inaccurate assumptions and is worth exactly what you pay for it. If listening to this show causes you to take out a loan to buy new and expensive digital tools, you may tell your spouse that it was our fault, but do so at your own risk. So tonight, our guest is a guy who knows how to sort Legos, switch vacuums, and cast shadows. But recently, he's been teaching his CNC to paint. Welcome to the show, Pete Parisi from PeteSquared23.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. How you doing, Al? Hi, Jeff.
One, good, good, good. Thank you for coming, sir.
Of
Doing
course,
good.
thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're doing fun things that I think people would like to hear about. So that qualifies you for the prize of the week, I guess. Why don't you
So,
why don't you give us a basics? Maybe who you are, what kinds of stuff you do, and what kinds of fun tools you like to use on a regular.
Sure. I started this probably 3 or 4 years ago, but I've always been making stuff. But I started social media about 3 or 4 years ago as I was exiting my job at Apple and needed something to kind of relax and unwind and do. And my entire family is full of artists and makers, and all the way to my grandparents who were doing stained glass and traditional artwork, to my parents who were into ceramics, and my dad was doing woodworking. So a lot of inspiration there. And then I started really wanting to get into doing CNC work. And one of the big uh, inspirations for me was the guy on YouTube who does the micro or Marble Machine X. I don't,
Okay.
I'm not sure if you've seen that guy, but he's making this incredibly interesting musical instrument on his CNC, or he used to on his CNC, where marbles are dropping on musical instruments. And he had an Avid CNC, and I was like, oh wow, I want to do something like similar to that. That's so creative. And
is
that,
is that? I'm sorry. Is that Wintergotten?
yeah, Winter God,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And me and my wife Pam, we used to watch that every week when he used to come out with a new video. Him and his team, and I told myself whenever I got some time, I was going to buy one of those and teach myself how to use it. And eventually we did, and I broke a lot of bits and wasted a lot of material. But finally got the hang of it and started building a relationship with Avid CNC. And then now that's kind of taken off into doing more stuff like 3D printing or laser cutting or anything that's like digital fabrication type work.
It's kind of a spreading addiction.
Yeah.
I mean, once you dip your toe into the digital fab, you find yourself needing a printer and a laser and a CNC and oh, maybe another type of laser and what's next.
Yeah.
It's an addiction.
And Jeff, you mentioned fiber lasers a little while ago. Uh,
Yeah.
I I having one of those cut metal or something like that. That's down the road, but that would be amazing.
Yeah, that's something I'd like too. They just the the price entry point for a fiber laser that has enough power to do any good is just a little, it's been a little high for me. I mean, I guess I kind of picked last summer between buying a bamboo and a fiber laser, and I ended up with the bamboo.
Yeah.
But
I,
there was budget for one, and I went the other way this time.
are you pretty happy with your bamboo?
Yeah, really, I am. I'm a little less happy with them based on some of the stuff that's come out this week. There's been a lot of drama about a new firmware that's going to block out third-party slicers from being able to send directly to the printer, and they seem to be doing some weird stuff. I mean, the printer itself, I'm super happy with. Um, it does an amazing job.
Yeah, I love it. I used to have a Creality, one of the cheap Creality ones, and all I did was calibrate that thing and try to get it to print nice. And then as soon as I got one of the bamboo ones, I haven't really done any maintenance hardly at all. And the prints are always usually pretty good.
Yeah, the thing that I the thing I hear people that have the worst problem are the people who used to have to tweak their machines to the nth degree to get shit to print right,
Yeah,
because they try to bring that mentality into bamboo, and it throws their delicate calibrations out the window. Whereas if you don't have any idea what the hell you're doing with a printer and you start with a bamboo, you throw in a model, you give it a couple of basic parameters, and you leave 98% of the shit as default values, and it prints beautiful every damn time. And as long as you don't have any bed adhesion problems, and remember to, make sure your bed is super clean, or
yeah,
occasionally glue if you're doing something super thin like a Hue Forge. But I mean, other than that, it basically just prints beautiful shit straight out of the box every time,
yeah. I,
unless you try to adjust all the damn settings manually because you think you know better, and then it really actually works worse from what I understand.
yeah. Yeah, I hate to turn this into an ad for bamboo, but man, I'm really I because I have two of them sitting right next to my desk right here, and I'm constantly just throwing things at it, and I'm always 90% of the time it just comes off flawlessly. It's really nice.
Beautiful cabinets too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I keep mine running too. I just keep throwing shit at it, and I mean, I'm not even doing super useful stuff most of the time, but I mean, I've got a teenager and a toddler in the house, so there's a non-stop stream of little flexi toys and
yeah.
fidget kind of shit coming out, and then I'm covering the entire house with freaking Hue Forge pictures. Um, but I mean, every once in a while, I try to do some custom stuff, and it's been a gradual process of just transitioning from the guy that downloads shit, telling it I want 4 copies and pushing print, to the guy who's designing some stuff and modeling. And recently I've done some of the suspended thread art kind of stuff.
Oh yeah,
I
that's really
learned how to
cool.
do the threads. Those are not super hard, but there's a couple of hard rules you got to follow to get them to work. But
I've seen the lion one where the all the threads are the lion's mane, and then
oh, those are cool.
after it's
Yeah,
done printing, you heat gun it and kind of comb the hair back. It's so
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I did a Christmas tree that had that loopy kind of just draw it in space kind of shit that worked out.
yeah. I
But
get so excited when I see ideas like that are totally out of the box and people are
right,
doing something totally different. And I don't know. I get excited about that stuff.
yeah, the suspended by threads is a really fun thing to play with. I've got a few more ideas. But I mean, I did a custom flying fuck a couple of weeks ago where it's just the word fuck with wings, and it's suspended inside a cloud with some threads. It's sort of fun.
That's cool. You have it? You have it there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, look at that. Oh wow, that came out awesome.
It's not that hard to do, really. You just have to learn how to model the threads so they actually work properly and don't just fall right off when you touch them.
Yeah,
You have to
that's
make sure
neat.
the threads go through the frame, not just up to the frame. Otherwise, they'll just fall right off.
My friend Luke from Luke in the Garage. I'm not sure if you know Luke, but
Everybody knows Luke.
he printed a Millennium Falcon that had all the. It was like suspended by the wires and the threads.
Yeah,
That was pretty cool
that's
too.
a 2-day print right there.
Is it
It's
really?
probably
Oh wow.
probably 2.5. I don't remember. It was, yeah, that's a big one. Um, yeah, I think I've got a couple of those files in a folder I haven't done yet because they just take a long time.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I'll get there eventually, and I'll
Hey Al,
make
do you have
more
a
of them.
3D? Al, do you have a
I'm
3D
sorry.
printer?
No. When you guys got these big fancy 3D printers, I went the fiber laser way.
Oh, nice.
That coin I showed you was one I did.
Oh, with the Darth Vader on it.
Yeah.
Oh,
When
that's cool.
James Earl Jones passed, yeah.
Yeah. I see your
Um,
Laguna CNC in the background too.
yeah, that's a Swift 4x8,
Nice. You get a lot of use out of it.
and I do. I use it all the time. And then this over here, we can do a quick there. That's a 100-watt CO2,
Oh wow.
and then this is the 50-watt fiber.
Hey, nice shop.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Thank you very much. We got CNC, and then on the other side is a 18-inch bandsaw, saw stop, big dust collector, drum sander. Kind of got to do everything up here, or you can't do anything.
Well, it might be the lens or something, but it looks like you both have really big workshops. Is that true? Or
My shop is 24 by 28. It's a 2-car shed. It came in 2 pieces, it's from the Amish country. They build sheds and they haul them and just set it on the ground. It's got a wood floor.
oh, cool.
Took 2 18-year-old kids, I don't know, hour and a half, and I had a building ready to go.
That's
It was
nice.
crazy.
Yeah.
I just took over one end of my unfinished basement, so I've got, I don't know, maybe 20 feet by 15, something like that. And basically, I took as much space as I wanted and kind of put up a couple of barriers with some shelves, and then allowed the kids to do whatever they needed to do with whatever's left. But I mean, I could expand or contract a little as needed because it's my fucking basement. And the kids get whatever I don't feel like using this year.
What do you use? Are you in a basement and a shop or a rented
We have
space or?
it's a really small 2-car garage.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I live in California, so all the houses are really, really small here, or at least ours is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm always kind of fighting for space and room, and that's kind of one of the things I'm doing is I'm
Yeah.
always cleaning out and trying to find a place to put a certain tool or get rid of a tool, or I'm about to get rid of some old jigs that I've made that are just taking up
Yeah.
space.
Yeah. I'm doing a purge here. People are like, do you wish you had a bigger shop? And I think everybody does, but it kind of makes you, like, to your point, you're going to put, if there's a flat surface, you're going to put something on it. So just control your flat surface. Don't make another flat surface because you're just going to put stuff on that too.
I've always been a fan of April Wilkerson, and seeing her giant shop that she has. I've always wanted
Yeah.
a space like that. But I know if I had like 6 tables, I'd constantly be cleaning up those 6 tables instead
Yep.
of actually getting
Yep.
work
Or
done.
Yeah.
there'd just be stuff piled on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even have a workbench. I work on the end of the CNC because if I put a workbench in here, I'll just cover it with stuff.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
So speaking of April, um, why don't you tell us what you did with your Lego sorter and how that whole outsourcing went?
Sure. I've always been a fan of Lego, and when my daughter was born, I started buying her Lego sets. We started playing with Legos together, and just I had the idea from seeing other products out there because there's a ton of different Lego sorting type things. But we needed something because I have a lot of OCD. So she'd be playing with the Lego, and I'd be organizing it and separating it and categorizing it. So I kind of built that to help us with that, and it got really popular. People really liked the idea, and I kept getting inundated with people saying, "Hey, can you build me one of these? Can you make one?" And so I just reached out to April because she has a whole company that does manufacturing for makers, and they were really cool to work with. I worked with her assistant. Oh man, Jordan was the one who was running the shop, and then she has another guy. I forgot what his name was, but he worked with me a little bit on the design, like optimizing it for the CNC, so that we could manufacture it a little bit cheaper, a little bit faster. And then they were doing all of the order fulfillment, the manufacturing, and then shipping it out. And it was fantastic. They did a really good job. They
Cool.
It was high quality stuff. Eventually, we kind of moved away from the plywood and went with MDF to get the cost down a little bit more. But eventually, like we sold a bunch, and it was really cool. But eventually, it just became too much dealing with customer service, and the shipping companies, they are so hard on their shipments. They're kicking them around and stuff, and so
Hmm.
like
Heavy stuff.
one out of every four would come broken. And I felt so
Oh,
bad, like disappointing people that they
yeah,
spent all this money on something and it would come all busted up. It wasn't April's fault at all.
No.
yeah,
It was like UPS and the postal service. So I just kind of got tired of dealing with it, and we shut it down. They still wanted to make them because it was good for their company and stuff. And I really enjoyed working with them, but I got to the point where I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. And like you guys were talking about earlier, you want to make fun things. You want to have fun in the shop. You want to be creative. You want to do interesting things to keep your brain active. And um,
hmm,
that's why I'm kind of moving away from like trying to start a business and do like generate products to for sale and have to worry about all that stuff. I'm getting to retirement age, and I want to go out in the workshop and just have fun and not have to worry about paying bills and stuff like that.
I'm absolutely with you on that one. I have tried a couple of times to find ways to monetize my hobby, and every single time I end up with almost no money, and it's absolutely sucked all the fun right out of my shop time. And I just I've come to the conclusion that while I can and could make money with my shop, I could make more money per hour working at Walmart. And then I could come home and enjoy my shop time doing things that I think are fun. And I would have more money and more enjoyment out of my life by making my money elsewhere and just having fun in the shop.
yeah,
It's it's my preference too.
And I'm not trying to disparage anybody who's trying to make a go of making a business at this because it is a really great place to make a business. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm a full time. This is my money,
No, that's cool.
but I'm not living. I'm not making money on social media. So
Yeah.
I'm a word of mouth furniture finishing. I'm doing a big project for a golf course right now. Um, so it's that kind of piecework. You know,
Well,
Right.
small menu, kind of like April, only a tenth of a
yeah.
tenth.
To be honest, I'm not sure a lot of people are making very much money on social media unless they're on like selling stuff on the TikTok shop or stuff like that. If you are a
Right?
medium size account or a little bit of a smaller account, unless you have millions of followers, I don't think you're making a whole lot of money from Instagram
No.
and Facebook and things like that.
Well, Instagram doesn't pay anybody. Facebook, I hear amongst back channels that some months they pay really well and some months they don't. I think
If you get a lot of views,
most of the people that get a lot of views on TikTok pick up a decent amount of money. But I don't know. I've never had that level of success. Actually, I have we'll say it. I guess I probably sound a little bit bitter because I've made a considerable number of views on TikTok that have generated me no damned money. And it's based on their other arbitrary numbers that they need you to hit. And the one I couldn't hit was the follower count. That until you get 10,000 followers, you don't get a penny, no matter how many views. So the fact that I had a couple of TikToks that were, in the 100, 200,000 views, and I had one TikTok with 7.5 million views, which is generating an incredible amount of good revenue. I mean, I had people commenting and liking on that every day for a year and a half before I got sick of the shit and pulled them all down. But I generated a lot of money for those guys, and because I didn't hit an arbitrary point of 10,000 followers, the fact that I got maybe 8 million views over my content generated me nothing, but gave them money.
Oh
So
yeah.
I've eventually pulled the plug on that experiment and decided that I don't want notifications from a bunch of idiots that watched a video I'm not particularly proud of that I posted a year and a half ago. And I decided I don't want to generate money for them anymore. They're not going to kick me anything. So just let the other people steal it and put it on Facebook if they want it, because I'm out.
And it's so random too. Like I'll post a video and I'll get 500 views, and I'll post another video that's very similar, and suddenly it's got 10,000 views. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what is really going on? Like, why isn't there more consistency here? And I have no idea.
Like stories on Instagram, if I post one, several hundred views. If I post 4 or 5 in a row, they each get like 30.
Yeah.
But
Instagram does this thing where they reach out and to different social media people and they try to give them training or tips or whatever. And a lot of times they want people to post pretty much the exact same time every day. They want you to post 2 or 3 times every day. And unless you check all these check boxes,
yeah.
they just ignore you. They're just like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
You're not part of our plan, so you're not gonna get any views.
Yeah.
Could be the coolest thing ever. You just get buried.
Well, it's not like they post this shit and say, if you want our algorithm to treat you the best, then these are the practices that you should be following this year at this time. This is what our algorithm works best with. And they may tell a couple of influencers some of that shit for insider knowledge, but I mean, God forbid if they just posted that shit somewhere on a freaking Instagram page and let you know what the fucking rules were instead of the rest of us just fumbling around in the freaking dark.
Yeah, but then they'd have to pay us.
Yeah, well, they're not going to do that. But I don't know. There's questions about, like, do you need to post your shit first thing at 8 o'clock in the morning? Is that when you get the best views? Or is it okay if I post my shit at freaking 11:30 at night? Because that's what I want to do. Because I'll come downstairs when my kids go to bed and I'll play in my shop for a couple of hours, and I'll usually post footage of what I've been playing on and have a snack and go to bed, because that's what I've done and when I feel like fucking posting it. Now, does that hold me back or put me ahead, or I don't know. I don't know what's best. So I've decided I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want. And even if it doesn't get me the most possible engagement, and well, fuck it. This is my game. I'm doing this to have fun. I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. even if it's not the best possible thing I could do, well, tough shit. This is me and what I want to do with my channel.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jeff. Like, I just do it for fun. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to turn it into a business. And I met some really, really cool people, made some really good friends. So I kind of post
Yeah.
stuff just to have conversations with them. And if it gets some bunch of views, that's fine. But it's usually like 50%, hey, that's cool, and 50%, hey, you suck. so so it's kind of a wash.
What
Well,
are you? I'm sorry.
that's a popularity. Normally, when your reels are in the first 1,000 or 2 or 5,000 views, you normally get a lot of good supportive comments from people in the community.
Yeah.
And if your shit takes off and gets a lot more viral is when you get out to a wider crowd, and then you get more of the negative shit. that's
Yeah.
that's when you get more of a general population that aren't actually makers and creatives. When you hit the big numbers on the views is when you get the crowds of assholes that come in, and that's when you know when you start seeing negative comments is when you know that your view count is jumping drastically.
Especially on Facebook. I have a love-hate
Oh,
relationship with Facebook. There are so
same,
many
same. Yeah.
hateful people on that platform.
I've given up trying to join any groups. I talked to a friend of mine who was I don't want to say marketing, but like trying to figure out the algorithm, and he said just join groups that are like-minded in your product. Like if you make American flags, join patriotic groups and stuff like that. And then just he goes, you don't even have to sell like market. Just post your stuff. Hey, look what I made today. And he goes, I picked up 300 followers and sold 7 products or whatever, and without even advertising. So I started joining a few different groups, and man, oh man, well, let me tell you, I am way too fat to own a CNC. I'm like, I don't even understand what you just said, dude.
A lot of it is just there's the spelling and the grammar is so bad I can't
Yeah,
tell what they're actually saying.
I
it's
don't
like
know.
what? Okay.
I lost the love part of the love-hate relationship, and I just simply hate Facebook now. The only time you'll see me near Facebook is if a friend of mine sends me a link to a reel they want me to watch, and I will click on it. It will open in my browser because I refuse to install their app on my phone, and it'll open on my phone browser, and then I'll watch it, and then I will close the window. I won't look at a comment. I'll watch something somebody sends me, but I'm not going there. It's a cesspool of assholes and idiots, and I want nothing to do with the place. It was great 25 years ago when I could connect with my aunts, uncles, cousins, and distant relatives, and I could see the things that they posted about. But that algorithm disappeared right after I got bored with Farmville, and I've really had no interest to go back in the last, I don't know, it's been well over 15 years since I gave a shit about that site.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So let's.
really hard to deal with. But my friend Jason on Big Sky Maker, I'm not sure if you know who Jason is, but he's been doing really well on Facebook, and a lot of his stuff is he's in his garage, but he's doing a lot of things that you like normal people could do with a table saw and things, and he's really creative. He's
Mhm.
been seeing a huge amount of success.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
it can be a good place to get a lot of success and a lot of attention, and even a lot of sales if you're doing it right. But
Yeah.
it's also a shithole.
Yeah.
All
just
right, let's talk about something nicer. Let's go back to
yeah.
printers and so you said you got your 3D printer. You have or had an Avid CNC.
I do. I have 5 by
You do
5
have.
foot. Yeah.
Nice, nice.
Yeah. It's my
Uh,
favorite tool.
man, the 5x5 is so nice. I so regret not buying 5 wide. Like because as soon as you get into Baltic birch and you realize that 5 foot, is cheaper or less expensive than four
Yeah.
4 foot, which is weird.
Yeah. Well,
But
also
somebody told me
too.
that's because the cabinet industry is based on 5 foot.
Oh, really?
So that's why there's 5x5 and 5x10 Baltic birch.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I don't
I
think I
got the
knew that
five by
either.
five because doing tool paths at 48 inches, if you're on a 4 foot machine,
You're
sometimes
maxed.
you'll
Yeah,
hit the proximity sensor, and it's just kind of a
yeah,
pain.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've been limited a couple of times at 4 foot wide. What are you using for software? Like your design work is amazing. I've been doom scrolling your Instagram in the background here. Um, it's you have really nice design work. What kind of software and or how does that work? What's the process to get from an idea to to a product?
So I use Fusion 360, and I know a lot of people out there they use a lot of the other programs, which is totally cool. Um, I know a lot of the Autodesk products like 3D Studio Max and Maya. I've been doing
Mhm.
3D Studio Max for 30 years because I'm a 3D modeler in the games industry.
Oh,
Um,
in
Okay.
the real world.
yeah, in the video games industry, or I am for a while. I took a break and was like a manager at Apple for a while too. But we were still doing like 3D work for to train AI algorithms for the autonomous vehicle that Apple was trying to build, and for other things too. Like my team was the first team to do a lot of the prototypes and demos for the Apple VR goggles that
Yeah.
nobody cares
Okay.
about. but
Hey, can we talk about the photos in this last update? Sorry to interrupt. Please
No,
go.
no, it's yeah. Internally, there's a lot of people who are very frustrated because the software is really suffering. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah, I can tell you some crazy stories about that company, but I won't go into it. But Fusion 360, it's very difficult to get your head wrapped around it right at the beginning. But once you
Yeah.
kind of understand the workflow of it, you can get so fast at building things in Fusion very quickly. It's I love it. I think it's fantastic, and I even like it better than like 3D Studio Max because of the way that they deal with their dimensions and their measurements and how things link together. You could do a lot of parameters, so you can basically set up a whole,
Right.
like, let's say you wanted to do coffee mugs or something. You can set up parameters where you can say, oh, I want a 4-inch coffee mug, now I want a 5-inch coffee mug, and everything changes for you,
Right.
and
The
adjusts for you.
parametric modeling is twice as hard to be able to make sure that all of your measurements are linked directly to the previous measurements so that when you change the one number, everything else changes.
And doesn't break.
But yeah, the parametric modeling is a little bit more difficult, but it's super rewarding that you can go back and change a couple numbers at the very beginning, and the whole thing just scales crazily. I've been uh, I've been working on a HueForge frame that's fully parametric. I can kick in a length and a width of the HueForge picture, and it'll kick me the model for the frame that everything works the way it's supposed to, and the picture pops right into it neatly, no matter what size. But that's a bit more of a pain to do. But I mean, it's super rewarding when you can pull it off. Um, do
Yeah,
you
and
use do you use the cam as well as the CAD on that?
yeah, I do all of the tool paths in Fusion 360 as well,
Okay.
and mostly I use the Amana tool. They have a Fusion 360 library of bits with feeds
Okay.
and
Hmm.
speeds. So I'm not an expert at feeds and speeds at all, but I generally just use their stuff to start with. But it's really easy to install, and then you just get in there, and some of the tool paths can get pretty complicated in figuring out, like, do I want to select an edge or a face to get the right kind of tool path? But once you kind of get the hang of it, it's
Yeah.
fast. Like I just designed a bench, a rolling bench for this new laser that I just got, and I did it in like an hour, and sent it to the CNC machine, cut out all the parts, with very, very minimal mistakes. It was just a really fast process.
I just I'm not a Fusion user yet, and I literally today, just before they started the show here, was telling yeah, Jeff. I just bought Bob Claggett's Fusion 360 class,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna try my hand at it again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bob's really awesome.
That is the way I wrapped my brain around Fusion. Is I started with Bob's class as well. Um, yeah, you said it definitely has a learning curve to get started, but I would say specifically that every option in the drop down menu has its own hump to get over, because Fusion thinks in its own way, and you have to understand how it thinks. And then you can, once you grasp the basic concept of how it thinks, everything just falls into place and
Yeah.
starts happening for you.
You
But
can't go into
there's
the
that learning curve on the modeling side. If you're doing the CAD, you have to learn the idea that they want you to make a two-dimensional sketch
Mhm.
and then exit out of that and then extrude pieces of that sketch in different directions to create the 3D model. And of course, there's like three other ways you can do things, with the revolving and the extruding and the pure
So
shape. But
I can write toolpaths or create toolpaths right in Fusion and
Oh yeah,
take them right to the Laguna.
absolutely,
and it'll
So
export the G code.
I wouldn't need Aspire anymore at
you
all.
would not need Aspire at all
And it's free. Fusion's free if you're using it for non-business use. So
until you get a rotary. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's
There's
true.
a line there that they're not willing to acknowledge that I might have a rotary as a hobby. They figure that anybody that's got the money to throw at a rotary is probably going to be making money, and they should probably pay for the full version plus the goddamn machining extension, which brings your annual cost right up to what you're paying for Aspire,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
They're
yeah.
probably trying to recoup some of their costs for developing all of that because
It,
it's yeah.
Yeah.
But Fusion's pretty extensive. You can do electronics in there. You can set up. I don't know anything about electronics, but you can basically set up a lot of like circuits and things like that.
will it talk to lasers too?
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah. It'll
it
talk
has
to lasers.
3D
I
printers.
I model things and send them straight to my bamboo slicer. That's a huge one right there. I see a lot of people that they'll create a model and then they'll have to export it as a mesh, and then they'll import that into the slicer when there's actually a 3D print button. You can send that shit straight from the model to the slicer, and with multiple colors and multiple objects all in one file, in one chunk. It's just a beautiful thing.
When you start getting involved in exporting like DXFs or what's the other 2D or 2.5D format that
STL.
STL.
yeah. So it gets a little bit tricky when you start getting into that point. But one of the companies that makes the robot router thing, uh,
Shaper. Origin.
Shaper.
Yeah.
So they have a plugin that totally streamlines the process of exporting STL. It's really easy. So, but that all that stuff is like
For
2D.
Fusion, you mean?
Yeah, out of Fusion. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so you could design laser projects in Fusion and then kick those out as an STL that you could put into your laser. At least, the two-dimensional. I'm not sure about your your fiber and your three-dimensional shit and your depth maps. I'm guessing that's possible, but I don't
yeah,
know how to do it. But I mean,
yeah.
the exporting just a simple thing that would go to your CO2 laser just to cut out stuff in two dimensions is absolutely a regular thing it does.
Yeah.
So if you're using VCarve or Aspire, where they're kind of like a pseudo 3D, it's more like 2.5D.
Mhm.
You get the height
Yep.
and
Yep.
everything. You can do all
Yep.
that in Fusion. It's just a little tricky getting it out, but once you learn a couple techniques, it's a
Yep.
no brainer. It's really easy.
So would you go right from Fusion to the CNC, or from Fusion back into Aspire toolpath and then to the?
No, I go straight from Fusion, export G code, and then I load it up in Acorn, Centroid Acorn. I used to use Mach 4, but I work really closely with the team at Avid, and they moved away from Mach 4 and they sent me a new Centroid license instead because we were finding bugs all over the place with Mach 4. It would just, the machine would just stop right in the middle of a toolpath for no reason at all. And it was just the company just could not fix their bugs. So Centroid Acorn is what we're using now to run the CNC and to process the G code, and it's fantastic. I haven't found any bugs with it at all, and I've been doing all kinds of crazy
Is
stuff.
that their controller, or is that an Avid controller that I see on your pictures?
The controller box is from Avid, and then but the software is from Centroid.
A copy. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But you need an Avid controller box that works with Centroid. You can't take the mock box and you have to like send it back to them and they'll send you a new box or something.
Right. Right.
I really like the guys over there at Avid too. They're really, really helpful. They're working on some new stuff coming up. Hopefully, it'll be out soon. But like most of the guys over there, like Corey, I think he's the owner. He's fantastic to work with. And then I work with Eric a lot, who's kind of their social media like tech person that also works with people directly. And I just text him and say, hey, I don't know how to do this, and he instantly just sends me a tutorial on how to do it, or tells me, oh, click this button over here. And yeah, they're very nice.
Nice.
Very easy to work with.
Good relationships or service relationship are almost more important than the product itself. You know, if you can't get it fixed, doesn't matter how good it is when you got it.
Well, right. Their old social media person, Sammy, she actually works at the Fusion 3 on the Fusion 360 team now. So she moved over to Autodesk, but she was the one who got me my 5x5 machine. I originally bought a 2 foot by 4 foot machine just to learn, and they've been super supportive. She pushed for me to get a new machine, and they were all about it, and it really owe her a lot.
Nice. So let's see. What else have you been doing with the CNC? Oh, I want to hear how you did the shadows for, like, you did like the house numbers where the light was on top and it shone through a CNC cut board, and then the light that comes through the holes displays on the wall as the actual house numbers. And I kind of wanted to do that when I saw you do it a while back, but I'm not sure if it would work with my house and where things are and where I've already got lights. It might not really.
So I have a tutorial for it on Instagram. It's pinned to my Instagram account if you want to check it out. But I used to live in Dallas, and there was a really cool nightclub. And on the side of their building at night, they had they had a light shining down on some planes that were sticking out away from the wall, and it wrote the name of the nightclub in shadow on the side of their building, and you could only see it at night. I thought it was really, really cool. And I've also seen it in hotels and things like that. Uh-huh. But the nightclub did it in such a way where they distorted the letters so that it would be undistorted on the wall. And I was trying to think of like how you would do that. And I went into 3D Studio Max because they have real-time lighting and shadows. And I just put a plane up, a simple geometry plane, and then wrote out the numbers as a stencil in geometry and put it up against that wall plane, and then put a point light shining on it. And then I just started distorting the mesh and like in a trapezoidal shape until the numbers were undistorted, like on the wall. And you could probably do it with math or trigonometry or something else. But
no, I can't.
I can't either. But because it's a point light, all the rays of the light are coming out of that one single point. So, you can distort that in order to get the correct shadow. And it worked. It worked really well. So I took that shape out of 3D Studio Max, brought it into Fusion, set up the toolpath, milled it out. But then I also took the measurements of where that point light was in 3D space, and then got a single LED light, because some of the flashlights for LEDs, they have multiple LEDs, and that will make a lot of different shadows. You want one single LED to shine most of the light out, and then that will give you a really nice crisp shadow. I actually use my phone, the flashlight on my phone, to test with, because that's a single LED, and it really nice, crisp and clear shadow. But what I'd really love to do is to figure out how to do it on a piece of acrylic or a piece of glass, to where you can have really intricate shapes and you don't have to make it like a stencil. So you could coat the glass with like a piece of black plastic and then use a laser to etch it out and like peel it back. And then when the light casts through that, you get even more detail and more, stuff hanging on the wall. You can even do stuff where you animate certain parts of it so the shadow is moving around. It wouldn't be crystal clear, but it would be kind of neat.
Yeah. Like have you seen they'll do sculptures, and as the sculpture turns, it makes a shadow, turns into a landscape and all this kind of stuff. And then you look at the sculpture and it's like coat hangers with Post-it notes and
Right.
They have night lights for kids now that has like the body of an owl, but then all the wings are the shadows that come out from behind it.
I've seen those as 3D prints that you can do. I've seen those on a few of the 3D sites where you can download like the owl body, and then it comes with the box in the back, and you just have to put the light bulb in the right spot inside, and then as the light shines out, it broadcasts the lights as the feathered wings sticking out on either side. I think I've seen eagles and owls, and I'm not sure what else, but I've seen a few of those, and those are definitely some smart modeling.
Yeah. There's also a type of puppetry that you see, I think it's in Thailand, where they have these really intricate stencil puppets, and they shine light through them onto a canvas, and they can animate them. And that would be really interesting to do too, if you had some motors that would move a character around, and the shadow would dance on the wall or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That'd be cool. I wouldn't mind making some moving thing where, like a little animatronic, a 3D print, CNC, whatever, some parts together, and then hook it all to a slow motor that will turn the main gear underneath, and then all the little pieces animate on top. I wouldn't mind doing something like that. It's one of 746 vague thoughts in the back of my head that I'd like to do one day, like a marble machine. I've wanted to do a marble running machine for years. Will I ever get around to it? I don't know. I've got 700 vague ideas tossing around. Will I ever get to that one? I hope so. But it's not in the up and coming queue, so probably not this year. But you never know. You never know when I decide I'm super fascinated in, oh, look, this thing. And that's what I'm going to be doing for the next month or so. And then it's, something shiny over here. Maybe it'll be marbles next time. Maybe it'll be shadows. Who knows?
I think that's why we're makers, because we have all these crazy ideas and we want to explore the ideas and be creative.
Yeah, I think so.
Like having your CNC paint for you? Is that what? Can you go into that a little bit?
Where the hell did that come from?
So there's a bunch of accounts that are already doing that. One of my friends who's actually near me, his account is called Robots Draw, and he does a lot of architectural plotters that used to put architectural designs on paper, and a bunch of other like robot machines where he's always doing designs and really cool like spirograph type stuff. And then there's another artist that I've seen. I forgot what his name is. I follow his account. He has a paintbrush that follows. It's almost like a racetrack on a canvas, and then he plops
Right.
down paint every 10 inches, and the paintbrush will hit that glob of paint and drag it and create this really cool design effect.
I think I
And
follow that one too.
yeah, it's
I don't
beautiful.
remember the name, but I follow an account that does exactly that, and it's cool.
And just seeing that stuff and how creative it was, I wanted to try to do my take on it. And I have a new version of it I haven't filmed yet and put it out. I'm trying to get it to where instead of using a paintbrush, it's scraping the paint across, like squeegeeing the paint across. I'm still trying to dial it in. It's kind of working in some parts and kind of not in others.
This is the red thing, the red on your Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's fun. It's almost like one of those sand tables where they have a magnetic ball and they're creating this design in the sand table. So it's just another way of creating art and trying to be creative and trying to figure out how to use the CNC.
Are you just changing direction on the controller, or did you just go in and just draw a bunch of lines and make a toolpath?
I made a toolpath. I set up a whole grid of points in Fusion, and then I'm just drawing lines on that grid. It doesn't have to be a grid. You could do whatever you wanted to, but it's one long toolpath, and the toolpath is set to basically like you would carve out a sign. It's a trace toolpath essentially.
Yeah. Well, here's an idea. Do your pattern like this blue and white, which is beautiful, by the way, and then have your CNC do it in iridescence, but distorted, so that when you shine your light through, you use a single point black light.
That's cool. That's a cool idea. Oh, I didn't think of shining a black light through that. That's
glow
really
in the
cool.
dark paints. Anything that's UV reactive would be really fun to mix in there. I like the way that you've got, what is it, 3 or 4 colors that are dripping down into your, I mean, it's okay. For the people who can't see this right now, well, first, I mean, obviously go look at Pete's page and you'll find this pretty quick, but you seem to have designed and 3D printed. It's like a square bucket that fills with paint, and then as you drag it around on the canvas, it kind of just leaves a trail behind of whatever paint happens to fall into the
into the square,
but
like
then
a squeegee in a
got,
window.
what is it, 3 or 4 different containers that can hold the paint, and it drips from those 3 or 4 containers down through separate tubes and then drops
like an IV
down
drip
into the bottom, so that you could adjust it so that there's more blue on the left side as it moves around and more red on the right. And so was that a fun thing to model?
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun. It doesn't work as well as I made it seem though. Like the valves are very finicky. It's dripping a lot of paint or it's not dripping any paint. So I'm kind of trying to mess around with it a little bit more to figure out how to really adjust it, because I want to be making decisions while it's working. I don't want to just make it automatic. If it's not giving the right kind of look, I want to be able to tweak it as it's going. But
go to an aquarium supply shop, and you'll have a knob instead of a lever that you can really dial your air. Well, in your case, paint.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think better valves is a definite answer for that.
Because right now I'm using, I started out using those brass valves, and that was just on or off. And then I went and switched to Rainbird for your outdoor sprinkler systems, and they're not working that well either.
Well, I don't see any reason you couldn't 3D print your own damn valves and make them however you want. That maybe you might just have to drop the off-the-shelf options and go with your own flow.
Or do like,
Something that would
jets in a carburetor. You could do a 0.3, a 0.4, 0.5,
Oh yeah, that's a cool idea. You
or if
guys are
it's
full
that
of
you
good
just
ideas. I gotta hang out
yeah.
with you guys more often.
And I mean, I suppose if you can get the different streams of paint to come down the way you want to come out the end of the tubes, you might not even really need to drag the bucket around. You could
Yeah.
just drag the 4 dripping streams around and then not have it be scraped. Would probably, I mean, just as another see how this looks different, option.
We could set it up to where it's like a drag knife. Have you ever used a drag knife on the CNC for cutting like cardboard or leather,
It's
yeah,
on
things like
my
that?
list.
So Stupid Simple Tools makes a great drag knife. They sent me one and I messed around with it for a while. It's fantastic. But it changes orientation depending on where the CNC is traveling. So,
yeah.
and having like a squeegee or a paintbrush or whatever that kind of shifts around as the CNC is moving could give a really cool effect as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit closer to the guy that's dragging the paintbrush through the
Yeah.
gloves. That'd be more like what he's doing than the effect you've gotten so far.
There's just not enough time during the day.
Oh,
I
I know
work
now
full
you got my
time.
brain going because I'm like, now okay, you could use a like an Allen wrench, basically put the brush out on the arm, so the longer the arm, the bigger the sweep you get in a corner, or the
Yeah.
tighter the sweep you get in a corner, with a shorter one, using the drag knife theory.
Or a few different things. You could have different
Yeah,
trails going around that are kind of mixing
yeah,
together as it's moving.
yeah, yeah.
there's a lot of options.
So
There's
so
so much
next week
things
when
to
we
do.
next week when we record, Hannibal back here is going to look like a Jackson Pollock painting.
Hey, why
It,
not?
it could. I mean, it might look really, really neat. Just, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
pretty cool. It's almost like an epoxy pour in the sense where if you use, I don't know if you ever seen fluid acrylic paint. I'm used to using the
yeah,
tube acrylic paint, but this stuff is fairly new. It's fluid. It's for
yeah,
doing dripping paint stuff.
yeah,
But if
yeah,
you did use enough of that, you could have everything kind of undulating together and mixing together. It'd be beautiful.
yeah. That
Yeah.
would be crazy.
I'm
But if
actually
you're using a CNC, are you really an artist?
so
Oh shit, here we go.
I got a couple comments like that, and I'm just like, people are like, "You're not a real artist. Oh
Or a
my
woodworker?
god, yeah, you're real artists are going to vomit all over you," and it's just like, it's creative. Who cares what kind
Yeah,
of tools you're using? If you're kind of
yeah,
problem solving, thinking of ideas, thinking how to move something in a certain direction, yeah, of
yeah.
course it's art. That's what artists do.
Yeah,
Not,
well,
not to mention. Not to mention, your paintbrush was $10 and mine was 10,000.
right. The the confusion seems to be where the art is at. Now, the question of if your CNC is all queued up and you just push the magic go button, are you creating art there? And the question is, well, maybe not. Maybe the machine's doing it. But if you've set the machine up to do what you want it to do, maybe it was you creating the art when you were in the software. It's the week of planning to set this shit up to make it do exactly what you want it to do, how you want it to do, and how you can get your tool to get you the output desired that you want. The art is in the software, not the hardware stage, and that confuses some people. And it really it really bothers people that just work with their hands and go with the flow and feel the wood underneath their chisels and this and that and the other. They just don't seem to understand that there's art and skill and lots of work that happens. I mean, it could take you a week or so to design the models and to create the paths and to get this shit before you push the button and watch the machine do all the fucking work for you. There was a week worth of work, skill, and art to get to the point where you could push the button and it will do what you fucking wanted it to do. And they don't see that part because if you try to film yourself designing a digital project for a week, that's going to be boring as shit. Nobody's going to watch that. Nobody posts that because it's not interesting. It is super hard to do any kind of a software tutorial and not have people falling asleep right away. It's not an easy thing to do. So they don't see where the art comes in because they see us push the button and watch it roll, but they don't see all the setup and the work and the planning the art before you actually do the art.
Yeah, but it's also a lot like photography. A photographer is an artist. They go out there, they figure out what they want to photograph. They part of it is using the device to get the best result, but it's also, figuring out how to get the best composition or tell the best story with what they're photographing. And it's with any tool. I'm sure that the cave people who invented the paintbrush had a lot of people going, "Oh, that's not real cave art because you're not using your hands to paint on the wall. That's You're using that silly brush device to spread the paint around, and that's cheating, and you're not a real
Yeah.
artist."
Right. For thousands of years, we just dipped our palm in the blood on the floor and put palm prints on the damned wall. And now you're coming along with this fancy shit and you like used a bundle of leaves to dip into the blood and then pat that down on the wall like a freaking sponge painting. And you're fucking it all up. This isn't the way we do things here.
And
And
it's
that argument has been running ever since.
oh yeah, like when they invented the table saw. That's not real woodworking. You're cheating using the
Yeah.
table saw. When
Yeah.
somebody invented the hand plane, it's the same story.
Yeah.
It's not
Can you
about the tool.
imagine? Yeah. Can you imagine what Norm Abrams had to deal with?
I'm sure a lot of people told Norm Abrams that he's not a
Yeah.
real woodworker, even though
Yeah.
he's one
He's
of
the
the
first.
best ever.
Yeah. He's the first person to use a chop saw commercially.
Yeah,
Oh well. Somebody's
I
got to be the first to do something and eventually but see, here's the thing is that eventually that these become so widespread that they become accepted by the society in general that we're at a point where nobody tells you that a table saw is not woodworking anymore because you had a motor on your saw. It doesn't make you less of a woodworker. And
Yeah.
because you're using a powered router to do things, that doesn't make you any less. And I think we're approaching a tipping point where CNCs are so popular and so many people have them that there's a lot less negativity than there maybe was when people started using CNCs 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait till it's not going to be long before the big box stores are going to have CNC machines in the corner that you can buy.
I'm personally waiting for Walmart and Target to start stocking filament.
oh,
Um,
I thought Walmart had filament. Don't do they not?
not physically in the store, but I mean they've got all that third party shit on their website where you can get anything, including filament, I believe. But those are probably fulfilled by third party. I don't think they actually have filament yet. There's very few places, especially box stores, where you could like walk in and buy filament. But considering how many people have fucking printers these days, it just seems crazy that you can't just buy filament everywhere. You'd think there'd be a lot more demand for
Yeah.
that.
Back to the
Amazon.
art stuff real fast. Have
Sure.
you guys seen the one artist who He paints on these really giant black canvases, and there's one video of him hanging upside down by a trapeze with a giant bucket of rainbow paint, and he rips off the duct tape that exposes the
Yes.
holes, and he
Yep.
flies over the
Yep.
canvas and
Yep.
sprays all the paint on the canvas.
Yep.
So
Sometimes
that,
the canvases are spinning.
yeah. So that went viral a bunch, and it's because of he's really split everybody apart. It's like people were like, "Oh, I love that; it's beautiful," and people were like, "That's not real art; that's a gimmick." But I personally, I think I don't care for the art myself; it's not my thing. But I think as an artist, he's fantastic because he's gotten people to talk about art and
Exactly.
have a
Yeah.
discussion about art. Maybe the art's not that great, but because he's bringing all this discussion together, I think it's very successful. And I think
Yeah.
CNC does that. I think lasers do that. I think
Mm-hmm.
anybody who's creative and he can look at things and think about possibilities, like, oh, I could use that in my workflow, or that's a really cool idea, or or I don't like that. I don't want to do that. I want to do this instead.
Yeah.
I think when you're doing something that nobody cares about and it's not getting any discussion or nobody's talking about it, I think that's when you fail. If
Yeah.
people can love it or hate it, that's much better than being
No
indecisive about it and not caring.
No engagement at all.
If they
Yeah.
don't care
Yeah.
either way, I mean, well, art is usually about evoking a response in the viewer. And if the response from your viewers is meh, you're not freaking doing it right. So you either need to be really good or really innovative to get some attention, and whether that pisses people off or amazes them is
Yeah.
remains to be seen. But
You make me think of because I refuse to acknowledge it as art, but by the definition you just said, the banana duct tape to the wall, which makes me furious.
Yeah.
But by your definition, it is so engaged. So many people have talked about it and have thought about it and have discussed: is it art or is it not art?
And
And
you don't have to like it.
right,
You
exactly,
don't
yeah,
have to want to
yeah,
put that up in your house. It's just an
yeah,
idea. But if the idea there's a conversation around it, then maybe it's successful.
yeah,
Personally, I don't like it, but I'd
yeah.
love to
No,
talk about it.
no. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Oh, and the videos, there were there were people like going into museums and they would like take a shoe off and throw it in a corner, and eventually within 10 minutes there'd be 5 people just standing around just taking in the exposed shoe.
Yeah.
And they're just over there filming it for TikTok going, look at these fools. But
it's hard
that
to
all
tell what's
stemmed
art and what's not art when you're in an art
that
museum.
yeah, and that all stemmed from this guy or woman, I don't know who did it, that taped a banana to the wall with duct tape.
I went to art school. Well, I got my art degree at Chico State, so one of the top 5 party schools in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
They had a pretty good art department there, though. Some really good teachers, and you were exposed to that kind of stuff on a daily basis. People would come into a metal sculpting class and do an interpretive dance about how they felt about their metal sculpture, and it's some of it's if you have questions around it and you want to learn more about it, you want to understand where they're coming from and stuff, then I think it's interesting.
Yeah,
But a
yeah,
lot of the stuff, I mean, I wouldn't do a strange dance to do a metal sculpture, but I, art is art is for thinkers. Art is
yeah,
for discussion and ideas. I think.
I don't. I hate to say that the performative doesn't really work for me a whole lot, because I've done some performative type stuff with my projects, so I can't really say that. But I, for the most part, a lot of times art should be just there to be seen and had opinions on. But I mean, I can't really throw too many stones, because I've done a couple of projects where it was what I was doing performatively with the art that actually was the fun part for me.
Yeah.
It's like I made I took, what was it, about 13 C clamps, cut them apart, and welded them back into a clamposaurus. And it
That
had a
sounds
fully
awesome.
functional jaw with nice sharp teeth in it, and I ran a rod in through the back of the neck that would push on the bottom of the jaw. So and I hooked that to the end of a hex bit, so I could take my uh, Ryobi drill and hook it to the back of this guy's neck. And when I slammed the trigger into high gear, it would crunch shut on anything that you wanted to crunch with it. And I had a series of reels that was me where I would like say something stupid, and then the clamposaurus would eat something and sometimes make a comment about it in return. And I mean, that was kind of performative art with the piece that I'd assembled as a sculpture, but it was a functional sculpture. And the little bits of reel that I did of having him eat things and get progressively more and more um bloodthirsty as the week went on. I mean, I can't really throw stones at the performative side of what you do with your sculptures. I
Is
don't
that on your
I can't see
Instagram?
putting it there and doing a dance around it though. But I mean, that's just because it's not me and I'm not a dancer.
Yeah.
I don't dance, I don't sing. That's just not my game. But I'm a smart ass and I can make it eat things and make it funny. So
I got to see that. Is that on your Instagram account?
it is on my Instagram account.
That sounds really cool. I want to check that out.
It is fun, and by like day 7, it uh, takes off a couple of my fingers.
Oh, I hope not.
Well, they were technically hot dogs covered in ketchup, but I mean,
Nice.
and it's very, very obviously so. But I mean, I did some, the Jurassic ringtone that says that says that the monster's coming after you, and he got loose, and next thing you know, he's grabbing onto my hand, and I'm shaking the camera around and looking like I'm being eaten, and then the camera goes dark. So and God, that sculpture was a pain in my ass too, because apparently cast steel is not really made to support the. I mean, it's like with a C clamp and a cast threaded hole. Those cast threads are only supposed to take so much power and so much strength. You're not supposed to crank a C clamp down with the unending force of a ratcheting driver, and because it'll strip your damn threads right out. And it
Sounds
got to
really
the
cool.
point where I would shoot a reel with it, and then I would have to replace some parts with the threads before he would function again the next night. I'd have to do repairs before I could do the next scene, because it just wasn't made for that. But it was fun, definitely.
Sounds very cool. I'm gonna go on your account and check it out. That's awesome.
Yeah, you have to dig. It's been a little while.
All right.
Um, we should probably try jumping up to our thing of the week. Did either of you bring anything interesting for a thing of the week? And this is just whatever's caught your eye this week is fine.
Of our own stuff or just anything?
Anything.
Well,
Yeah.
just anything that you'd like to recommend people checking out. We've had anything from Hugh Forge prints to bands and artists and train travel and personal therapy. So, really, just anything that you think is interesting and has really got your eye, and you'd like other people to maybe go check it out. It could be a channel. It could be an account. It could be whatever floats your boat this week.
So I don't know how I think this is really cool. I just found these LEDs uh, on Amazon. They're like a solid color LED.
Okay.
This one's blue. I've never seen these before. Usually they're like jagged or they're like dots but this is just one. I'm gonna put this on the new table we just built for the printer, so it has ground effects like a car would have.
Okay.
It's really flexible. It's really heavy duty. And
so it's more like a flexible rubber strip. It's almost like a flexible rubber neon effect.
Yeah, you can make signs out of it. What's that?
What's the power source?
It's a 12 volt
wired to
yeah, just a wired like 12 volt 5 amp thing.
Okay. Does it do colors or any smart functions, or is that one just plain on or off blue?
This was just blue, but they have ones that are RGB, which I think you can do programming on them and have them do animation and things like that.
That's cool.
This just came in the mail today, and I thought it was pretty awesome.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. I will be watching. See where that ends up.
See how that ends up lighting up things for you in the shop there.
Yeah. Is it trimmable? Like, can you cut it shorter?
Yeah. You can. Nice. They also give you some wires to put multiple ones together.
Yeah.
You can cut the end off, and wire it up. And they have little clips for mounting it too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What about you guys?
Okay. Well, I have to make sure I get a link to that. I'll put them in the show notes later. What do you got, Al?
I actually sent this video to you. It's a reel. It's a German guy, and he is George Dietz, GeorgDietz, George Dietz, and he's speaking German. But what he's done is he took a CO2 laser and he cut cradles for like a half size of a spray paint can. And then, I don't know why I never thought of this. I have can racks everywhere. He just screwed 2 rare earth magnets into it. And then he has this just flat cradle on the ceiling, and all his spray paint cans are stuck to him, exposed. You can see the colors. You can see the brand. He's got Montana and Rust-Oleum and everything. It's just because my cans are up in rafters in little racks, because spray cans. Otherwise, you got a laundry basket full of spray cans floating around everywhere.
So I saw that too.
Did you?
All
right.
Yeah,
cool.
I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. And it's super simple. I'm literally going to screenshot it and make some.
Amazon has those rare earth magnets that you have a hole in the middle where you can screw things in.
Yep.
But
I've used them.
Fantastic idea. Yep. Really cool.
Yep.
I didn't know those cans were magnetic.
I didn't either.
No, but it makes sense. I don't know that they're. I don't know if they'd be sturdy enough if they were aluminum, because they're more pressurized. You're expecting it to be a lot more pressurized than, say, a pop can. So one would expect. Al just found a paint can and stuck a magnet to it, and that's proof positive. Spray cans got enough steel in them that you could just hang them from the ceiling.
And you probably could use this is much stronger, the crimp part. So you can put one top and bottom.
How about the bottom?
It seems like
what?
Yep.
So technically you could probably, if you had a couple little posts, you could have all your cans hanging straight down from the bottom. So that way the color side is facing down, and you can just see what color and grab the one that's still pretty clever.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Because this is I don't know if you can see this. Up there. That's my current. They're just tipped on edge, like
they're up, they're out of the way, and they're very accessible.
Yeah, and I can see the colors, and
and it's because you've got a higher spot in the shop that's kind of overhead range where you can walk underneath that without it being a problem, because you've got a peaked roof in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, for the people that are in say the small 2-car garages and the walls are all full and there's no hanging spots that are really good for that, then just being able to put the stuff straight up onto the ceiling above you would be
Yeah. Yeah.
a good way to save a lot of space on things.
For sure. 100%. Yeah. What are you doing? What's your thing of the week?
Okay, well, my thing of the week is a TV show that came out about 5-ish years ago. I think it was 2019, 2020. Unfortunately, they only got one season in, but um everybody's favorite mythbuster and internet maker is Adam Savage. Everybody knows
Yeah.
Adam Savage,
Yeah.
but he made one season of a TV show called Savage Builds, and there's about 7 episodes or something like that, and he does some of the most amazing shit. I mean, one episode he makes a 3D printed titanium Iron Man suit
Hmm.
that literally deflects bullets. And it was titanium printed using the, what is it, sintering? What is it, SLS? The sintering technique where they laser the powder into solids areas and print a full Iron Man suit that deflects bullets. And then they hooked up with that gravity suit guy so they could make it fly too.
Oh wow.
And there's another episode he gets an iron meteorite and works with a metal guy, I don't remember what you call it when you pound on the metal, blacksmith dude that specializes
Forger.
in swords, and he made a fucking Excalibur out of an iron meteorite.
Oh
And I
wow.
mean,
Wow.
this is the kind of stuff that he does. I don't remember how many episodes. It's just the one season, but just in case you have not seen that yet, it is absolutely maker crack. It is
Yeah.
really, really good because I mean he's the maker guy. So
Yeah.
this is absolutely a maker based show where he's creating things that are absolutely fantastic and fantastical in, you know, yeah.
He's so amazing. I watched an hour video on YouTube on how he categorizes and organizes nuts and bolts in his shop.
I think I've
Yeah.
seen it. I don't know if it was an episode of the TV show that you're talking about, but I did see one episode of something that he did where he machined the pistol from Hellboy, the Hellboy movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because he had the prop of it, so he could take measurements off of it. But then he actually went through the whole process of doing a whole like full metal version of it, and it was really fascinating.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that was probably from his tested channel. I don't think that one was a Savage build,
Okay.
but it's the same kind of
Yeah.
stuff. He has an episode where he makes the there's a movie called The Fifth Element
Yeah.
that was an old classic, and there's this fantastic gun in there where the gun salesman is trying to sell this gun, and it's got a net launcher and it's got an ice shooter and a flamethrower and a dart shooter and a rocket launcher and a repeating feature where you shoot one thing and then all your other shots go to the same place. He actually built a functional version of that damn gun in one episode. It's about twice the size of the one they used on the show. But the one they used on the show didn't work. You know, it was a prop. He actually made one that did every single thing that gun was supposed to do. It is about twice as big as it was supposed to be, but you could still pick it up and use it. And it's crazy.
I gotta watch that. That sounds really cool. That was Gary Oldman, by the way, the
That
actor
was
who was
Gary
the gun.
Oldman.
He was the
And
bad guy.
he's in the episode.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's so cool.
Adam sends him his old ZF1 gun that he made that was just a prop. The one that didn't function, the one he just made as a screen identical prop. He actually sent that to Gary at the beginning of that episode.
Oh, that's cool.
And then was talking about having Gary come see his functional version, but they didn't get that far in the edit. So
he did I don't know if it was an internet show through COVID or something, where he collected and he did unboxings on like 1/25th scale models. Like he did the Ghostbusters. They were like die cast, but they were like 3 feet long.
wow.
And he had it was a Ghostbusters one. He did it was one was like the car from the Wraith.
I thought he had a spider robot too that he unboxed.
Yeah. But and they were like scale models of like actual.
Yeah, the Tested channel does all kinds of amazing stuff, and they really have since YouTube became a thing. Yeah. Is he went to that about the time that they canceled MythBusters for budgetary arguments, that he started the Tested channel, and YouTube was just really taken off, and he was lots of fun to watch in those early
really
years.
hope I hope they're recording his brainwaves somewhere, and then someday when we can decode them into English again or language again, we can, because that's a mind that the planet will never get again.
Yeah, I'd have to say the only regret I've got for Adam Savage is that he's never really been part of the community in himself. Now, that's not saying that Tested and the channel hasn't been part of the community, because our guest from last week, Chris from Route 9 Signs, has actually been on Tested with some of his signs. So I mean, I'm not going to say Tested really isn't part of the community, but Adam has never really been. I mean, he does the Maker Fair thing where he's like up on the stage, but he doesn't really seem to be as much of a mingler as other people that are big in community, like April or Jimmy. I don't think we can finish an episode without mentioning Jimmy. I'd hate to miss one.
I think people like Adam are they're just next level. Their brains are functioning at this level, and us little people are down here. What's for dinner? Adam's like, how can I make the stove to make dinner?
I gotta admit though, I've met Jimmy a couple times at the Workbench Con. And he's the nicest guy, man. He's such an inspiration that he's seen that much success, but he's still really down to earth, really nice. I don't know if I could be as good as he. I would think I'd start becoming a total asshole if I had his audience. But he's awesome,
and he is literally, if you drive up to his shop, he's just going to open the door and say, "Come on in. What do you want to see? Let's go. Let's talk." He'll give you a tour. It's like, dude, you're working. He's like, no. What do you want to see? So it's tough to I don't go up there very often because I know I'm interrupting. And I feel bad because it's like, people are just swamping there all the time.
It's hard to get something done when everybody knows where you are and just wanders on in to say hi.
Yeah. And he is the sweetest man you'll ever meet.
Yeah, I would definitely, maybe I'll make it to the Maker Camp and get a chance to meet him in person. But if I get to meet Jimmy and get to see the barn, I don't want to tour. I don't want him to be.
Well, that's
I don't want him to be the puppet. I don't want him to be the puppet and the character on display. I just want to you know, as he's said a few times on his podcast, I just want to be a good hang.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I don't want him to give me a tour, and I don't want him to perform like a puppet. I just want to, you know,
So
chill.
you need to come to the go kart. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
well,
does a go kart track. Usually the weekend after 4th of July, and that's you're gonna stand next to him and serve hot dogs off the grill.
yeah, that'd be nice if I wasn't
Yeah.
like, I don't remember what it is, 14, 16-hour drive from there. It's a
Well, you can crash here. We're
it's
15 minutes
it's a
away from
good
that.
ways. Yeah. Well, I see the odds of me making it out there for Maker Camp is a lot higher than me making it out
Yeah,
there to hang out at a
yeah,
go-kart track for an afternoon. It's a little
yeah.
far of a drive for that, unless you're a serious go-kart enthusiast.
I've seen videos of those events. They look really fun.
They do look
They're just
fun, but I can't see
I
myself getting in a
yeah, no,
car and
no, that
driving
makes
for a
yeah,
day to
yeah.
get there for it.
It's just a very personal uh it's a personal what am I trying to say? Not romantic. It's very one on one. Like you're gonna stand next to him for an hour and a half and have full attention, and he has your full attention. It's not like he's at a maker camp where he's doing training and classes and shaking hands and being Jimmy DiResta, the God,
Right.
the maker.
Right. You
At the
just get to hang. You don't have to get
yeah,
Jimmy
yeah,
DiResta on performance mode.
right, right.
Hey guys, I'm
Anyway,
really sorry. I'm running out of steam. It's
yeah,
Okay.
same.
I
Well,
really
It's
we're kind of gonna wrap things here. Last question for you. I like to ask people what their dream tool is, and if you could have any one tool just dropped in your shop for free and magically had space for it, what kind of thing would you pick, and what do you think you'd want to do with it?
I think we go back to the whole fiber laser, like something strong enough to cut metal, and
Okay.
like a laser that would cut metal. And because I haven't done any welding in a really long time, but I would love to be able to throw a piece of steel down and get some really cool shapes and tack things together and do stuff like that. Would be nice.
Okay.
I guess a water jet could work there too. But
yeah,
Yeah, I hear they're a real pain in the ass because of the all the what do you call the sand stuff that you've got to
abrasive.
fight, the
Yeah,
abrasive sand that you've got to feed into it and then throw away and buy more sand next time. And I hear that's kind of a pain in the ass and not as much fun as it looks from what I've heard.
I watch the Fireball Tool guys a lot on YouTube, and he's got this giant water jet thing, and he's always cutting like 1 inch steel plate, and
that's
it's
crazy,
really
crazy.
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
How about you
If I
guys?
if I want to cut the plates, I'm either gonna go with a CNC plasma table, or if somebody's giving me something ridiculously overpriced for free, I'd like to try one of those EDM wire
Oh
that
yeah,
cuts with a wire that's a micron thick or some shit like that, and your
yeah,
pieces fall back together and you can't even see the lines.
yeah. Those are amazing.
I
I'd
I
rather have the
actually
plasma or the EDM than the water, but
yeah
that's me.
I would really love to just upgrade my current fiber, not upgrade this laser, but like get a laser probably 200 between 200 and 300 watt for engraving because the the theory is you can do anything with a 10 watt that you can do with a 100 watt. It'll just take you 10 times longer. But then there is temperature and thermal loads that have to be taken into consideration, and materials handle higher power and lower powers differently. And where a lot of people are running into problems with these fiber lasers is engraving like a gun slide, you know, because manufacturer to manufacturer have different alloys and stuff like that. So not every X pistol is gonna, engrave the same because this brand is a different composite. This brand is a different,
Different
alloy, and
hardnesses of steel.
So you really kind of need a high powered laser to handle the different ranges of metal quality.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so higher powered fiber laser.
Sounds good. All right. Well, I guess we're running out of time. Everybody's getting tired here. So it's been a long day for everybody, I think, which is fine.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
definitely like to thank Pete for coming on the show.
Thank you guys, and thanks for waiting for me. I'm sorry again for being late, but I really had
Oh, no
a
worries.
blast chatting with you folks.
No, that's
We
okay.
appreciate you coming out.
We had a little bit of time to kill for buffer, and it was not a huge problem.
Yep.
So everybody that enjoyed hearing about this should definitely go follow Pete. And why don't you tell us where all we can find Pete?
On Instagram, I'm PeteSquared23. On YouTube, I think I'm just Pete Squared. Facebook, I'm on PeteSquared23, and TikTok, I'm PeteSquared23.
I'm pretty sure I saw PeteSquared23.com somewhere too.
Yeah, we have some free plans. I think charging for a couple free plans, but got some designs up there if you want to download them. But it's kind of a hack together website. It's not the most professional place.
Yeah, well, what do you need for a personal hobby page anyway, right?
Yeah, very true.
Okay. So I'd like to thank Al for taking the time to hang out and ask good questions, because
Always a pleasure, sir.
that's why we hire him, to ask the smart questions. I can't come up with everything on my own. And I need to thank all the listeners for tuning in, because without them, we're just sitting here talking to ourselves. So I also need to give a huge thank you to our current patrons for their support. So many thanks to Adam from BKR Customs and Ed Swanson of Ed's Clocks and More. We also have a new addition this week. We have Eric
nice.
from Overall Makerworks. And you should definitely give his account a check and look, because he has lots of fun with his laser and his 3D printer. However, the content he's making that I like the best is watching him learn how to use some lapidary tools that he got last year. And for those who are not familiar with that term, that basically means that they're tools for cutting and polishing stones and gems. So if you were gonna, cut off a chunk of amethyst, carve it into a shape, and then polish it down kind of smooth, that's the kind of tools we're talking about. And I really think cutting and polishing stones is cool. And that's actually the content he's been making that I think is the coolest. So thank you for the support, Eric, and go follow him. He is at Overall Makerworks on Instagram. So if you enjoyed listening and would like to help support the show, you can share it with your friends, you can leave a review, or you can join our Patreon. You can find our Patreon at patreon.com/digifabricators. It's about a half a dozen places you can leave a podcast review these days, and I don't feel like reading them tonight, but there's plenty of them. We do have a Discord server open to all of our listeners. Our patrons will also get exclusive to an exclusive Patreon channel in our server. And they will get to hear about our next guest before that goes public. So direct links to our Discord server and the Patreon page are in the Digifabricators Instagram bio, which you should also be following at Digi-Fabricators. And if you or somebody you know does cool things with their digital tools, please contact us and let us know. We've only got so many friends to invite, and then we're going to need some suggestions to keep the show going. I can be found most places as A Weird Guy, and Al can be found under New York Woodworks, which is NY Woodworks with an X. So thanks again to everybody, and we will happily catch you on the next episode. Sweet. Nailed it.